it's all about scalability. It's all about systematically freeing up your time to focus on what's important, what your unique ability is, dumping other tasks onto other things so that you can focus on what you're best at and do it all the time.
So, you want to be a real estate investor, but where do you start? How do you know what information and sources to trust? That's where I come in. I'm Jonny Catani, and this is the Investor Relations Real Estate Podcast. Hey guys, real quick, before we start, go to investwithkatani.com and download my free ebook, Is Commercial Real Estate Recession Proof? Now to today's show. What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Investor Relations Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Jonny Catani, and we have a very special guest today. We have another former Raise Master, good friend of mine, soon to be real life friend, hopefully, Tucker Kimbrough. Tucker, in 2022, he graduated from Auburn University's Engineering College. He was commissioned as a second lieutenant in the Marine Corps a few months later, but there was a pandemic and his start was pushed back a year. So he did what any 22-year-old from Atlanta would do, packed his bags and moved to Biscayne, Montana to teach skiing and snowboarding. Once he got there, he met some folks and did well in the real estate market. He wanted in. He offered to help in any way possible, cold called, knocked on doors, called every real estate agent in 3 counties looking for deals. Found a few that worked, but they failed to close 13 offers and 13 deals and lost 5 months of cold calling and networking until finally they got one under contract. 6 months later, they closed. That's a story of how he got into real estate. Now 66 units in his portfolio between single family, commercial units, and short-term rentals. His goal is to help as many people as possible succeed in real estate. He offers busy professionals the opportunity to reach the summit of their financial potential by passively investing. Tucker, welcome to the show.
Hey, Jonny. Thanks for having me, man. It's great to be on here. I've been listening to a couple episodes and I'm glad for the opportunity to participate.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. We're stoked to have you. So we obviously just told the story here. Typically, we'd want a story of how you got into real estate, but we just told it. So kind of talk about, let's jump back a little bit. Had you heard of real estate investing at all, or was this just a brand new, you just discovered it when you moved to Montana?
Yeah, so when I was in my formal upbringing as a Marine Corps officer, I worked on it basically as my career through not the formal ROTC platform. I used, it's called the Platoon Leaders course. But while I was in college, I was working on the side of my engineering degree to commission into the Marine Corps as an officer. So there's a lot of leadership courses. There's a lot of field exercises. You go to Quantico, Virginia for a little while, et cetera, et cetera. And a couple of senior officers I'd met mentioned that a good way to maintain your wealth while you're in the military is to utilize VA loans and purchase homes at your permanent duty station locations. And so that was always in the back of my mind. But, at first I'm 18, 19 years old. I was not like, oh, I'm going to buy commercial. I'm going to do short-term rentals, those types of things. It was really graduating, having an engineering degree, and having essentially 13 months of no formal job that got the gears turning. It was like, okay, there's a pandemic. There's not really all that much that I can do. Getting hired was almost impossible. I was essentially already hired. My start date was just pushed back. So real estate helped me both fueled my passion, and I learned a lot about myself. I learned about sales. I learned about networking, professional business relationships, all these new things, these awesome things. And then I also saw the light at the end of the tunnel where, maybe one day I could sustain myself, my family, my lifestyle through real estate investing. And so the first lens that I saw it through was the short-term rentals. And the power there was just, you look at what you can get on a single family home, it's pretty standard, it's just whatever the market is. But with short-term rentals, it's, what kind of service can you provide your guests compared to where they could get the same type of experience in another property in the area? So the variability is a lot. You're looking nightly rates compared to monthly rates. And so you can exponentially grow your cash flows that way. And that's what we've seen. I mean, we started listing at $50 a night to get a lot of reviews, to get people in, like, butts in seats, get people in the door, get them to enjoy it, see if our property management worked. Because our properties are in Montana, right? The first Airbnb I ever bought was in Montana. I lived in Virginia. That's 2,000 miles away. So my partner, a strategic partner who's in charge of all operations, lived in Bozeman, Montana, which is a few hundred miles away from Glacier National Park, where all this stuff is. And so I had to learn very quickly at 23 how to, you know, be stay in my own lane, focus on the debt structure, refinancing, insurance, let him do asset management, have the guests, and just ride the wave. And now we're in July. We're between $700 and $500 a night are our
Holy cow.
rates. And we're at 67% occupancy for June, over 50% for July. We finished a second house up there. We did a full, like, bare bones rehab. So
And that's just one Airbnb.
it's
Or how
two
many do
now.
you have up there? You have two now?
So there was, the first purchase, and then the second house, it was a foundation on property. So we cleared it out and decided to build another house. Took about 6 months of having a contracted staff there almost 24/7 throughout the long Montana winter. Those guys really, they went through it, and I mean, did phenomenal for us. I mean, I went and saw the property in April, and I was blown away because you look at the before and after pictures, and it's just night and day. It was totally, but that, I mean, it fueled the passion for real estate for me. And that's when I realized, like, hey, this is, really something. We turned what I originally thought would be like a cool hobby into a, like, true passion, and a true, like, my partner is completely retired. He does real estate Airbnbs in Montana in 5 different cities,
Oh,
and
wow.
that's his full-time gig. I was so lucky to have his tutelage and his asset management skills that he brought to the table, through just networking, being humble, willing to put in the work as far as getting the deal. So that's really how I got my foot in the door. I made X number of phone calls, probably 10 times more than I remember making, because, for every 10 that you make, 9 of them don't really go anywhere. So that's how that relationship developed. That's how I added value at such a young age. And then now we're at a point where we're, looking to expand that operation further. But I also joined Active Duty Passive Income as a military focused multifamily mastermind that's all active and retired service members, talking about, how guys on deployments on ships are closing on 100-unit apartment buildings from overseas and doing all these amazing things, and they're giving back to the veteran community. So I joined that back in December 21, and just that opened Pandora's box for me, truly. So that's where I got the 63 unit as an LP in Columbus, Ohio. No, Cleveland, Ohio. I misspoke. And then I just bought a single family home down here in Florida that I live in, rent out to 3 other officers. And now I'm staging up for more syndications in the future.
Awesome. I love that. That's a nice solid diversification there for sure. So kind of still talking on the Airbnb, you obviously mentioned your partner. That's huge. Obviously speaks volumes to, like you said, adding value however you can. I typically say the two best ways to add value in the beginning are to find deals, be able to bring good deals to the table, or raise capital. You can do both. Did you guys have to raise any capital for the Airbnbs, or did you use VA loans, or how did you set those up?
So for the acquisition, we raised the 20% down, and it was only 100,000. So it wasn't the hardest thing in the world. With his experience, leveraged, he manages over 40 Airbnbs in Big Sky, Montana, has a six, almost 7-figure revenue structure on those. And so that accountability or credibility was huge for us closing in a new area that he had never invested in before. But leveraging that, and then for the second house that we constructed, that was personal debt, MX credit cards, the super risky play, if you will. But we had a plan to, leverage ourselves against any kind of emergency situations to a certain extent. It could have gone very badly, but I saw the light at the end of the tunnel, like I say, and I would do it again. There were some times where where you
Lose a
look
little
at the
sleep.
computer at your Amex card that you just started, and just like, okay, I did this, I gotta own it. And reading Grant Cardone's book too, like, you just gotta own it. Extreme ownership, right? Jocko Willink, extreme ownership. Like, I knew that if anything went wrong, it was my fault, and boy, things went wrong. There were times where I was out in the field with Marines training. So that Sunday, I'd set aside 5 hours to make sure, like, I'd have a call for an hour in there, but those 5 hours were for me to like brainstorm like anything that I can do to prevent anything to happen, because I'm not going to have my phone and I will be unable to put out a fire for X amount of time. Like, I got to prep for this exercise with the Marine Corps, and I've got to, not think about this property at all. And I was able to accomplish it just because I had faith in our process. And I'm not gonna lie, sometimes that goes away. It really like is hard to stick with it. But after sticking with it, honestly, the months of February and March of this year were the toughest because they were the lowest occupancy that we had. Now, seasonality would trend to that. That was what we were expecting.
Right.
But you see it and you live it, and you're like looking, okay, we've got to bounce back in the summer. And we sure did. But there was no paper verification of it until we got to the summer. Because the average lead time on a booking on an Airbnb is 10 days.
Really? Wow.
It
That's
makes it
fascinating.
tough. There's even a metric on your Airbnb analyzer through the app, and it's 30 days. How many bookings have you had in 30 days? So go back to March, the number looks a lot different than it is now. It's like,
Yeah, absolutely. I get that for sure. I mean, I'm definitely a 10-dayer. I as much as my girlfriend and I love to be able to plan things in advance, with our schedules, it makes it hard. So I definitely get that. But summer, that's got to increase a little bit, right? Because like you
oh,
said,
it
we're
was
starting to get
10x.
booked
I
up.
mean,
Yeah. Starting to get booked up. People know they need to book in advance for summer trips for sure.
we're making, 8 months of expenses in July alone.
Wow.
So that definitely kind of helps you forget about it. But to move away from short-term rentals, I realized, okay, this is relatively risky, very high return, high net return. I mean, you talk about triple net, this is quadruple net, but there's no predictability. Even when you go to lenders, they want 2 years of Airbnb's profit and loss before they'll lend you anything. And I think that's, smart, because it really does do this. Like,
So did you have to do a hard money loan, or what did the debt look like?
well, the debt, we just did a traditional 30-year amortized. We didn't do a DSCR because I had never gotten a home before. So I could just do the FHA.
Got it. So you just put it in your name.
Right.
That makes
Learned
sense.
that was not the best way to go forward.
Not the best for
But
asset protection, for sure.
no. But you gotta learn, right?
Absolutely.
I had no idea what was going on. That was what the lender recommended. So that's what I went with.
Have you
I
moved
mean, I
into an
was,
LLC at this point?
oh no, we didn't have an LLC. I was 6 months out of college. I was trying to reinvent the wheel, is what it felt like every day. I felt like I was reinventing the wheel. But I think the effort that we put toward it and the goal that we had in mind was what made that whole project successful.
Absolutely. Love that. And then that kind of leads to, you said 63 units. Where's that?
It's in Cleveland. I was
Oh,
just
that's right.
in LP. It's with Joint Chiefs of Real Estate, great veteran group. Actually, half veterans, half active duty. And it's just your typical multifamily, Class C, value add play, standard returns, extremely predictable, extremely underwritable. And I saw that as, hey, that's where I want to put 70% of my focus, because these are super predictable plays. Multifamily is not, going to bounce around with the seasonality of months and where people want to stay for certain events or music festivals and that type of stuff. And there's more scalability in it as well, because you're not having to cater your structure based on, the lot size or how many people you want to fit in there for whatever type of events you see. Like, as you can see, we got in the weeds on this short-term rentals. It's very structured, standard, like 2 bedrooms. Every single one of these 100 units is 2 bedrooms. They're all going to pay about market rent. Market rent covers where you're going to get a standard 7 pref, like very, very predictable, very, very repeatable. You have a formula, you underwrite a property, it doesn't fit it, brain dump it. We're not even going to try and make it work. We're going to focus on what our strategy is and get rid of anything that doesn't fit it. And that's the true power in multifamily, is the brain dumping and the hyper focusing on your business model, your plan, your team's plan. So that's what brought me to Raise Masters. That's what I learned as an LP was, if I want to be professional and predictable and talk about the market with a sense of pivot ability, I've got to not be only in short-term rentals.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a huge thing, right? You're not really going to be able to go out and raise capital from people if you're not already an LP yourself, like truly, if that's what you want to do. If you're on the active side, you can do a few deals, kind of scrape through it, and then, you've got the experience. But on the LP side, if you're just raising capital, bringing capital to a deal, you got to be in it, right? I mean, that's the only way. People want to see that you've done it yourself, that you've got skin in the game. And like you said, it's very predictable. That's why people like multifamily. And that's why we're starting to see a bit of a bubble in that asset class, because there's just so many people in there for the reasons that, you kind of outlined, and they're obvious, right? And they're great. And, people are really building wealth, and we love to see it. And I really don't think it's going to be like anything major. I just think we'll see a bit of a correction. So kind of along that, you mentioned joining Raise Masters. What have you thought of it? And, you're in the middle of did you already go live today? You're doing live for 30 days on LinkedIn.
No,
Raising capital.
I didn't. I was going to wait till after this to do it, but yes. So back up a little bit. I read Hunter's book, Hunter Thompson, Raising Capital for Real Estate. I read that in March of
Shout
this
out
year.
to Hunter.
Oh, Hunter's the man.
Oh, yeah.
He knows he's the man. He's the man.
Yeah.
And I was blown away. I don't think I was quite ready to totally understand everything in the book at the time, honestly. And
Same.
I mean, there's still some things in there that are very, very high level, very, very professionally done. So I wanted to understand it, though. I wanted to be able to speak to the points that they were making in the book and be able to repeat it, because the book is all about repeatability. It's all about scalability. It's all about systematically freeing up your time to focus on what's important, what your unique ability is, dumping other tasks onto other things so that you can focus on what you're best at and do it all the time. And so with that, I found raising capital to be something that I was relatively good at, something that I could talk about, ramble on about all day long. So Raise Masters being super focused and written by the guy whose book I just adored and obsessed over for a month, it was a perfect fit. I knew that it was the right choice, the right group to join, and it's been a great experience. I've learned a lot about, little things, like little marketing things that I can do, little strategies that I can do to free up my time, different ways to hyper focus. So, those little secrets have just been invaluable. And yeah, so I'm in the middle of a 30-day raise for multifamily right now. We're on day 20. I thought yesterday was day 20 because I skipped a day in the calendar when I was writing it down, but today is day 20 of 30. And I've learned a lot. It's almost felt like that process has helped me more than anything else, because it just brought me out of my shell. I'm so much more confident speaking, feel like I'm more eloquent. You hear your voice on recordings, Jonathan. I'm sure you've experienced this. You hate it because it doesn't sound like it does when it comes out of your mouth.
Right.
It's almost repulsive. Like,
Yeah,
I don't sound like that. There's no way. Because when you speak, your bones right here make your voice sound deeper.
Right.
And it distorts it pretty significantly.
Yep.
So hearing my voice on live video and having forcing
and
myself,
you're like, this is what people are hearing. You're like,
right.
Oh.
Sit there, watch myself, critique it, like, oh, I shouldn't say that, or, oh, why am I doing that with my hands? Where do I put my hands? What do I do?
I'm not sure what to do with my hands. Just put them down by your side, Ricky.
Exactly. But it's so true. I mean, being on podcasts helped those skills too. And that's all capital raising. That's all Raise Masters. And that's why I'm doing the challenge. And that's why I'm raising for multifamily in Texas, because Texas, as most real estate investors know, is one of the strongest markets. We're in San Antonio. It's the second largest population in the biggest state in the union, and soon to be maybe most populated if people continue to leave the most populated state and go to Texas.
Yeah.
Don't know if that's going to happen, but that's the trend that we're in. And I mean, it's stable market. Our properties are below market rent. So you've got room there, you've got value add room, forced depreciation, all those types of things. And again, it's Texas, it's the hotness for 2022. I mean, everybody wants to be in Texas. Everybody who is in California, everybody who is in Chicago, everybody who is up in Seattle wants a piece of Texas.
Yeah, absolutely. The economics in Texas are very favorable right now, like you mentioned, very strong, right? A lot of data to support that people are moving there and staying there. It's not just a short-term spike. So they're going to stay there. So you've got long-term, and people continue to keep moving there, which obviously, like you said, makes it very appealing. Those that know the industry know that's pretty much the top state. I think Phoenix wobbles between there, here and there, but I think even Phoenix may be below it now. I know some operators in Phoenix that are slowing down a bit. Deal flow is slowing down, so we'll kind of see moving forward. So for this raise, are you going to be joining the GP? Are you doing like a fund to fund model? What's kind of the setup there?
I'm joining the GP for Fairwinds Capital. It's a group of, I'm a Marine, right? They're naval officers. So we interact a lot. I mean, the Naval Academy, Marine officers and naval officers go there. I deal with naval officers on a daily basis near my base. So it's a very natural, like both military interaction fits into real estate. We sort of abide by very similar leadership principles. You know, Marine Corps is definitely more rough and tough organization, as everyone knows, but
Right.
other than that, it's very similar structure. We have very similar mindsets towards business analytics and implementation. So great group, honestly.
That's awesome. And obviously very experienced. So are you going to be, just like a fly on the wall for all this stuff, just like a sponge, just absorbing everything? What other value do you see yourself bringing, once you raise the capital and you're part of the GP?
So as you know, your investor relations, obviously, that's super important. And then there's some places that I see myself fitting in the future on a implementation level with asset management, with just ensuring that the business model is operating so that other guys on the team can focus on other aspects of different deals that they're working on, because they've got a lot under management and they've got a lot of other things in the pipeline that they want to pull out. So I'll be just helping them where I can fit in. And yeah, I'm not in this to get a, anything more than just a speck of the pie. Building relationships and ensuring that your investors get what they want is number one. That's all I really care about, honestly.
Right.
I can live below my means while I'm building my systems. I just want to see investors succeed and my team members succeed.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just another stepping stone, right? Like you talk to so many experienced operators and they pretty much all did the same thing, right? You take a very small piece of the pie in the beginning. Maybe you found the deal, maybe you're raising capital, whatever it may be, and maybe your boots on the ground, and you just take a small piece and learn, right? Learn everything, do that a couple of times, and then you can go out, and in the process you're building your own team and your own systems, and eventually then ultimately it sounds like your goal is to become your own GP. Is that what the ultimate goal is?
It's absolutely the ultimate goal. I'm definitely probably a few years away from it, but very attainable, I'd say.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you're already well on the way for sure, and you've got a ton of experience already that you can bring to the table. And, with the economy changing, this is going to be a time where, you're not really, the market's not really going to carry you through like it has the last probably 3 to 5 years. You have to really have really, really good underwriting, you have to really have a good asset management team, and business implementation, and we're really going to see, you know, who has the strongest team and the best systems. And I think we're lucky in that we're getting into it right now where our foundation is going to be, you know, learning in a recession, so to speak, where you actually have to like really learn everything and understand it all, you know, and then we'll come out of it and then it'll just freaking, it'll feel like a walk in the park, you know, in like 5 or 6 years, we'll be doing acquisitions, things will be, you know, hopefully on their way back up, and it will feel easy, right? Because we did it when it was hard.
Right. And you see that too. There's a bunch of people that did a bunch of multifamily, a bunch of single family in 2006, and nobody even knows who they are anymore. So that's something I don't know, right? Because in 2006, I was 8.
Yeah.
So I was not keyed into real estate at all. I mean, I remember the infomercials about all the foreclosed homes that were for sale and how you could, you know, get all these home foreclosures and all that sort of thing. But I had no idea what they were talking about. I think I was like, Mom, why are all these houses like, it was like 30 grand for a house? I was like, what? But I mean, I had no idea what was going on. So something everyone, especially those that are relatively new to the space, have got a key into to weather the storm. But there's opportunity there too. Opportunity
Correct.
never goes away. It just
Correct.
it's criteria changes.
It just takes on a different form, right? You got to
Right.
know how to find it. There's always something, right? Even in this last 5 years, you know, there's always some variable that's not in your favor, you know, that you have to work through. And in this case, it's going to be, you know, rising interest rates and slowing of deal flow. So, I mean, among other things, but yeah, there's always going to be something, right? So it's, this is an important time to just learn, you know, watch the people who know what they're doing and just be a sponge.
Absolutely.
Sweet. Well, as we kind of wind down here, we'll jump to the final 5, my last 5 questions I asked all the guests. First question, best advice you've gotten from a mentor?
I'd say the best advice that I've gotten from a mentor is really like just 2 little phrases that I keep in my head kind of at all times. One of them is, if you were 10 times more confident than you are right now, like just arbitrarily 10 times more confident, what would you do in this situation differently? I ask myself that every day, 10
Love
times a
that.
day. I mean, even in situations not involving business, like, you know, if you were 10 times more confident, would you go ask that girl out? Like things like that. Like
Yep.
seriously, like potentially, you know, total mindset experience shifting things, like asking questions in webinars, especially for people that are new, super hard. There's 100 people in there, and my dumbass is going to raise my hand and ask a question about debt structuring. And another one would be, this too shall pass. So you're successful, right? Things are going well. That'll pass, but then it'll go into an area where things are tough. That'll pass too. So just stick to your guns, stick to your strategies, and you know your experience is always going to look like this, especially in real estate.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. What is it about your career that makes you feel like you're fulfilling your why?
So the military is all about service and giving back, right? And so I get to do that to, like, with Marines, who are some of the greatest people I've ever met, both character wise, physically, mentally, and come from all different backgrounds all across, you know, some international and some just different states, honestly, that I'd never experienced just growing up in Atlanta. And I can give back to them by just, sound leadership principles. I can, experience and learn from Marines and military personnel. And then I can also give back by hosting local meet and greets for active and retired military members to show them different strategies and different benefits that they can leverage from a financial standpoint to help them and their family in the future. So VA loans, different whole life policies that they can help put themselves into to succeed and for their kids to succeed in the future. Because it's a long time ago, if you had a military pension and a GI Bill, you do whatever the heck in the world you wanted to. But as pensions have winded down, and it's just not what it used to be. And it just requires more effort and more consciousness on the part of the service member to leverage and to navigate into this new realm.
Absolutely. Love that. So important to help educate people so they understand, the opportunities. Favorite non-real estate or investment related book?
Old Man in the Sea.
I think I've heard of that one. Nice. I'll add to
It's
the list.
it's a short read, just about an old man experiencing adversity in the ocean. It's the story of him battling a fish, and it's just kind of he reflects on his life during the experience, and it's just a good story. It's a classic.
Love that. Love that. If you could have any superpower, what would it be?
Teleportation. I've actually
Nice.
I grew up thinking about that a lot because I'm always the type of person that wants to travel to a different state or a different country like every weekend. I mean, there's so many places to see, and
Yep.
I don't want to look at it on TV. I want to just go there.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Mine would be flying, but for pretty much the same reason. Teleportation would definitely get you there faster, but I think just like actually being able to fly would be so fun. Cool. Last one. What's the best way for people to get a hold of you and learn more?
Okay, so the best way to get a hold of me, LinkedIn, Tucker Kimbrough. My email is tucker@summitdirectcapital.com. I think all that's going to be in the show notes. And yeah, you can find me on Facebook, Tucker Kimbrough. So message me on there. You can see all my live videos too. So kind of see who I am. I mean, there's going to be 30 of them. So I might look stupid some days. I might look really intelligent some days. It's kind of up for you to decide whether or not you want to talk to me at that point.
That's the best part.
And yeah, I mean, all the social medias and email.
Sweet. Yeah, we'll link the website in the show notes. Are you single?
Yeah.
Okay, ladies, he is single as well. Very handsome 23-year-old. If you love a man in uniform, he's right here. You can watch us on YouTube. See that gorgeous face, that young, gorgeous face. He's young and ambitious. He needs a woman who can keep up with him, though. That's for sure. Dude, not a lot of 23-year-olds doing what you're doing, man. It was tough.
Yeah, I feel that because I'll get calls and texts from friends that are just like, dude, what are you doing? What is this? And just half the time I don't really elaborate because there's no point.
Yeah, it's just going to go over their head. They don't understand it. Dude, it's no different being 31, man. Some of my friends don't get it either. So
It's just, I got to do it.
absolutely. I love it, man. I love it. Yeah. I wish I would have started at your age, but that's okay. I didn't start too much later. And yeah. And the great part is, you got your whole life ahead of you. So you're well on the track for sure, which is awesome to see. So again, dude, thank you. You're the man. Thanks for joining me today. I had a great time.
Absolutely, brother. Thank you.
Yep. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching today's episode. I hope you really enjoyed it. Listen, I know it's cliche and you hear it all the time, but please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you know when the next video is coming out. Even though this is technically a daily podcast, you know it's coming out the next day. We have a ton of content coming your way. So please like and subscribe. It helps a ton. Leave comments. Would love to know what you guys think. And we will see you on the next one. Thanks so much.